Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. We're getting another one, and it's not even been a month yet. I've been prioritizing getting videos out to you guys a little bit more. I know I've been quite slow with editing, getting videos out, keeping you guys updated, and I want to make a bit more effort trying to get videos published and put out for you guys, because a lot of the viewers that still watch the content that I put out now have been with the channel for quite a long time, and I think it would be a bit more fair if I were to put a bit more effort into the channel, almost like I actually wanted it to grow in the first place. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in again. I hope you enjoy the video. Let's get this thing started. In March of 2019, the waters off New South Wales, Australia, were perfectly calm. The sea was flat as glass, the horizon a seamless line of blue. Local fisherman Jason Trapman Moyse was out on his usual route near Burmagui, a small coastal town known for its rich fishing grounds. Just another day, another catch, so he thought. The ocean, however, had a different idea. Not long after his lines went in, something massive took the bait. The reel screamed, the rod bent under impossible weight. Jason braced himself, expecting the kind of fight that could last hours. But then, silence. The line went slack. Whatever he had hooked was gone. Or so he thought. When the crew finally reeled it in, something heavy broke the surface. At first, it looked like the body of a shark. Then Jason saw something horrifying. There was no body. Drifting beside the boat was the severed head of a mako shark, its jaws frozen in a permanent snarl, the rest of its body missing. The head alone weighed over 100 kilograms. Thick muscle torn clean, bite marks wider than a dinner plate. Whatever had attacked this mako had ripped it in half with a single bite, then vanished back into the depths. Jason later said, "With the size of that shark head, makes you wonder what else is out there." He posted the photos online, and within hours, they went viral. Everyone who saw them asked the same thing. What kind of creature could do that? A tiger shark? A great white? An orca? Or something even bigger? Something we've never seen before? The most disturbing part is, something like this happened before. 16 years earlier. A satellite tag from a great white shark told a story that baffles scientists to this day. The tag recorded a sudden rise in temperature, followed by a steady warmth that lasted for days. This told scientists something chilling: that the shark, and its tracker, had been swallowed whole by another creature. But what could possibly live in these Australian waters that's big enough to swallow a 10-foot great white shark whole, and strong enough to tear a 550-pound mako clean in half, leaving only its head behind? To answer that question, we have to look closer, into the deep waters surrounding Australia. The Australian marine ecosystem is one of the most diverse on the planet. It's home to more than 4,000 species of fish, 70 species of sharks and rays, and countless creatures that have yet to be fully documented. Stretching from the tropical reefs of Queensland to the freezing sub-Antarctic currents near Tasmania, these waters hide everything from gentle giants to the most brutal killers nature has ever created. And while the world knows Australia for the Great Barrier Reef, its true mysteries lie far deeper. Along the continental shelf, where the seafloor suddenly drops away into darkness miles below. Down there, sunlight disappears, temperatures plummet, and yet, life thrives.
Earlier we talked about the strange case from 2003, the great white that seemed to vanish, its tracking data ending in a burst of heat deep below the surface. Weeks later, its tag washed ashore on an Australian beach. When researchers retrieved it and studied the data, the readings painted a disturbing picture.
The story drew international attention. Among those who took interest was filmmaker and researcher Dave Riggs, part of the team that had helped tag the shark, a healthy female later nicknamed Shark Alpha. Riggs had been working with Australia's first large-scale great white tracking program, a study meant to map the movement patterns of sharks along the coast. 4 months after tagging Alpha, the device washed ashore, just 2.5 miles from where the shark had first been released.
The shark had been swimming normally, then suddenly plunged to a depth of about 1,900 feet, as if pulled down by a tremendous force.
At the same moment, its temperature recorded by the tag jumped from 7 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius, indicating that it was now inside another animal. Something had eaten the shark. Riggs' investigation became the focus of a documentary called Hunt for the Super Predator, which later aired on the Smithsonian Channel. In it, he examined the disturbing possibility that the ocean's top predator might have fallen victim to something even larger. He explained, "The internal temperature of the animal that ate the shark is a weird one. It appears to be too low for a killer whale and too high for another shark, unless it was massive." Scientists eventually leaned toward a simpler explanation, that the culprit was likely a supersized great white shark, possibly twice the size of the victim. A cannibalistic predator whose size and power push the limits of what we consider possible. Still, Riggs admitted, "The big shark theory is the most accepted one, but I've noticed a lot of other creatures being suggested online. I don't think Godzilla is a possibility though."
Godzilla. Funny, right? But when you look at what happened to the shark, it's hard not to wonder if we're dealing with something that we don't yet understand. The data didn't show a quick kill near the surface. It showed a healthy, full-grown great white being dragged hundreds of meters down, and then staying there.
That behavior doesn't fit any known predator. A great white doesn't feed in the deep. An orca wouldn't stay that far down for days. Whatever this was, it didn't just attack and leave. It stayed there, in the cold, crushing dark, as if that's where it lives. Normally, when a great white is attacked, the tag data shows chaos, erratic bursts of movement, a struggle near the surface, maybe a rapid ascent as the animal tries to escape. But this was different. The shark's tag recorded a steady, powerful descent, almost like it was being pulled down deliberately. At 1,900 feet, the recordings stopped fluctuating altogether. The temperature jumped from the icy 7 degrees Celsius of the deep sea to a constant 25 degrees Celsius, and it stayed that way for days. Whatever had eaten the shark wasn't just warm-blooded. It was large enough to hold that temperature constant in the freezing depths. That might not sound unusual until you realize that most sharks are cold-blooded. Their body temperatures change with the water around them, so the deeper and colder they go, the colder they get. But great whites are an exception. They're one of the few shark species that can keep part of their body warm. They do it through a system of special blood vessels that recycle heat from their muscles. That's what allows them to hunt in cold water. Even so, Great whites can only stand about 10 to 15 degrees warmer than the ocean around them. If the water is 7 degrees Celsius, their body might be 20 degrees Celsius at the most. Orcas or killer whales, however, are mammals. They're fully warm-blooded like humans, with body temperatures close to 37 degrees Celsius. If an orca had eaten the shark, the tag would have recorded a much higher temperature. That left only one unsettling conclusion. Something out there is large enough to eat a 10-foot shark whole, and lives comfortably in the dark, freezing depths where no other predator can survive. Even years later, scientists still can't fully explain the event. Some call it an anomaly. Others suggest that the tag may have been swallowed accidentally by a scavenger after the attack. It's a fair theory. After all, the ocean floor is filled with creatures that eat whatever drifts down from above. But there's a problem. Scavengers that live that deep, creatures like hagfish, giant squid, or sleeper sharks, are cold-blooded. Their body temperature always matches the water around them. At that depth, that means just a few degrees above freezing. None of them could have held a steady 25 degrees Celsius. That kind of heat can only come from an animal that generates its own warmth. Something warm-bodied. But the only warm-bodied fish we know are lamnid sharks, like great whites and makos. And none of them are known to behave this way, diving that deep and staying there for days.
It's hard not to think back to Burmagui, a mako torn apart near the surface, a great white vanished into the depths. Two separate events, both suggesting there is something massive hunting the hunters.
When strange things happen at sea, people start searching for explanations. Some look to science, others look to legend. And one legend stands out. Of a creature that rose from the depths and attacked a ship. In 1808, an Australian three-masted bark was crossing the Pacific when something massive slammed against the bow. According to reports, the beast climbed aboard, biting into one of the crew and dragging him toward the sea. Those who saw it said its eyes were as big as a warrior's shield, reflecting the light like mirrors. The captain fired his revolver into those eyes, and the creature slipped back beneath the waves, never to be seen again. At least not officially.
It became known as the Australian Enigma, described as a massive serpent, although some witnesses say it didn't look like a serpent at all. No long neck or coiling body. It was thick-bodied, muscular, and moved in a way that felt almost human. Its skin was described as dark and tough, almost like armor.
Skeptics have argued it was a giant squid, but the witnesses swore there were no tentacles. And while there's no proof linking the enigma to what's been happening off New South Wales, the parallels are hard to ignore. A predator surfacing from the dark, striking without warning, then vanishing just as quickly. If the story of the Australian Enigma was just a sailor's tale, then what happened nearly 150 years later at Hook Island brought the legend uncomfortably close to reality. It was 1964 off the coast of Queensland, in the clear shallows of the Whitsunday Island. Robert Lee Sirk and his family were out photographing the reef when they noticed something. A dark mass beneath their boat, laying completely still. At first, it looked like a shadow cast by the rocks below, but as they drifted closer, the outline sharpened. It was a body. Le Cirque described it as huge, flat-headed, smooth-skinned, somewhere between 30 and 80 feet long. Its mouth was open wide, like it had been caught mid-motion. and it didn't resemble any known sea creature. No fins, no scales, just a long, solid form. He managed to take several photographs before the figure suddenly shifted. Slowly, it began to move toward their boat. The circulator said it was enough to make them leave immediately, without a second look.
For years, people argued over the photographs. Some said it was a hoax, an underwater tarp, or a trick of the light. Others pointed out the detail. The texture of the skin, the depth of the shadow, the proportion of its head. Things that would be hard to fake underwater in 1964. But what's harder to explain is how closely this creature's description mirrors the Australian enigma. Both were described as dark, finless, and thick-bodied, with an unnaturally large head. Both sightings took place in the Pacific waters east of Australia.
Marine biologists have offered guesses on what the photographed creature might be. A giant eel, a decomposing whale, a trick of light on a long shadow. But none of them fully explain the proportions, or the way it seemed to move. It's possible the Hook Island creature was never a monster at all. But if it was, then it might have only been one glimpse of a predator that is yet to be discovered. And that idea brings us back to the present. If you compare these cases, the shark that vanished, the mako torn in half, and the old stories of the Australian enigma and the Hook Island monster, the similarities stand out. Both cryptids were described as dark, finless, and massive, with huge eyes and a broad head. Features built for hunting in deep, dim water.
The modern shark incidents share the same pattern. A sudden attack below, in waters near the continental shelf. The kind of environment a large ambush predator would use to its advantage.
The enigma's eyes could help it see in near darkness. Its muscular body fits the kind of force needed to drag down a great white or bite through a mako mid-fight. And the Hook Island creature's shape, flat-headed, wide-mouthed, matches the size and angle of the bite marks left behind. None of this proves these creatures exist. But if something large, warm-bodied, and fast still hunts along Australia's coast, then maybe the old stories weren't that far off. What happened to those sharks is something we may never fully understand. Australia's oceans cover millions of square kilometers. Deeper, darker, and more complex than most of us realize. It's one of the most diverse marine environments on Earth.
Perhaps something larger is still out there. A predator we've yet to discover. Until we understand the full depths of the Australian Ocean, what happened to those sharks will remain a mystery. Hope you enjoyed this exploration into the unknown. Until next time.